So today we're zeroing in on one specific group from round two, group 6 actually. It produced an outcome that was, well, pretty unexpected. Really makes you rethink what musical quality means in this kind of competition.
Oh, absolutely. These 4 albums had already battled through round 1, so they all had some merit, but when you put these 4 side by side, yeah, the result just defied a lot of expectations, a lot of music history, really.
And the Quest author summed it up perfectly. Girls Aloud unravel the Beatles' mystery, while Foreigner provoke the end of Marillion season. I mean, that sounds like high trauma, doesn't it?
It really does, and we're going to unpack exactly how that happened, why it shook out that way.
Okay, so let's set the stage. Round 2, group 6. The Contenders were quite a mix.
A wild mix, yeah. First, you had Magical Mystery Tour by the Beatles, peak 60s psychedelia, right?
Iconic. Then, Agent Provocateur by Foreigner, pure 80s AOR rock.
Absolutely. Then Season's End by Marillion, carrying that sort of neo-prog rock torch.
And the wild card, maybe? The Sound of the Girls Aloud? A greatest hits collection of very slick 21st century pop.
Pop, AOR, prog, and the Beatles. I mean, talk about a clash of styles, eras, everything.
Totally. So before we get to the actual shocking result, we need to understand how these albums even got to round 2. Their path in round 1 tells us a lot, especially about maybe why some struggled later.
That's crucial context, yeah. Disqualifying for round 2 means an album has something, some level of quality.
But how you qualify who you beat, that seems to matter a lot when the competition gets tougher.
Exactly right. Okay, let's start with Foreigner, Agent Provocateur. They came into round 2 looking really strong. They absolutely dominated their first group. Round 1, group 42, #1 finish.
And look who they beat. It wasn't exactly easy competition. Simple Minds' Once Upon a Time huge 80s album.
Massive.
Cheryl Crow's Best, a really popular compilation. And Don Henley's Building the Perfect Beast, critically acclaimed, big solo record.
Yeah. Beating those 3 and convincingly taking the top spot, that sent a signal. It showed Agent Provocateur, even being from '84, had this immediate, sustained power in the listening test. It came into round 2 with some serious momentum.
Okay, clear strength there. Now, what about Girls Aloud? The Sound of Girls Aloud. They ended up second in this group, but how did they qualify?
They also dominated their first round group, Group 192, and their group was incredibly diverse, which really tested that pop compilation format.
Who were they up against?
Okay, get this. Katy Perry's debut, One of the Boys, big pop album. Then U2's Pop from '97, you know, the really experimental electronic one.
Divisive, yeah?
Very. And the new metal band Adima's self-titled album, Girls Aloud, just swept past all of them, won decisively.
Wow. Okay, that says a lot about pure pop power, doesn't it? Especially against something like U2's Pop, which, you know, it kind of asks a lot of the listener, maybe needs context.
Exactly. In a back-to-back listen like the album Quest, that immediate hit, that energy that Girls Aloud has track after track, it just steamrolls albums that are maybe more complex but less consistent or have slower batches.
Right, the kinetic energy just wins out sometimes. Momentum is key.
It really is. So Girls Aloud came in strong too, proving that well-crafted pop could compete.
Okay, now Marillion. Their path sounds a bit shakier. Season's End. They were in group 149.
And crucially, they didn't win their group. They came second, they advanced, but behind My Chemical Romance's Danger Days.
Okay, second place. And who did they beat to get through?
This is interesting. They edged out Temper Trap's Conditions, which was a decent indie hit, but astonishingly, they also beat The Who's Tommy.
Wait, Tommy, the rock opera. Marillion's sort of gentler prog beat Tommy. How does that work in this quest?
It perfectly shows how the Quest methodology values consistent listening over historical importance or even ambition. Tommy is, yeah, a landmark. But as a listening experience, especially back-to-back,
It probably has weaker moments. Tracks that serve the story more than being great standalone songs.
precisely. Narrative filler, maybe? Functional tracks. So if Tommy has those inconsistent patches and Marillion's Season's End is just consistently pleasant, even if it's gentle.
The consistent pleasantness wins over the flawed masterpiece.
Okay, I see.
So Season's End proved it was solid, consistent, well put together, but barely scraping past Tommy suggested it maybe lacked the real firepower needed for a tougher round 2 group.
They advanced on consistency, not dominance.
Got it.
They were maybe looking like the underdog winner coming into this group.
Potentially, yeah. And that brings us to the Fab Four, the Beatles.
Magical Mystery Tour. How did they qualify? This is the ironic part. Right?
Totally ironic.
Yeah.
They won their group, Group 115. Looked
Yeah.
good on paper, but it was an all-Beatles group.
Seriously.
Yeah. Magical Mystery Tour versus Please Me, Let It Be, and the early compilation in the beginning.
So they basically just won an internal ranking. They proved they were better than those specific other Beatles albums in this format. Exactly. A clean win, sure, but it didn't test them against different styles at all. Not like Foreigner facing Simple Minds and Henley, or Girls Aloud facing U2 and Katy Perry.
They were kind of shielded then. They hadn't really faced the kind of stylistic battle they were about to walk into in round 2.
Absolutely. No prep for AOR power ballads or super slick modern pop.
Okay, so the stage is set. We've got Foreigner, the confident rock champ, Girls Aloud, the relentless pop machine, Marillion, the consistent but maybe gentler prog contender, and the Beatles, the untested legacy act with an unusual qualifying path.
And that sets us up perfectly for the big shock.
Right, let's dive straight into the result that frankly sounds wild. Girls Aloud taking second place, pushing Marillion into third and out of the competition. For a lot of people, a pop compilation beating a respected prog band. That just feels wrong.
It feels wrong, maybe based on traditional rock hierarchies, but the Quest analysis shows why it's logical within this system. It's about that relentless, high-impact listen. The sound of the Girls Aloud delivers that.
And the source material really emphasizes the craft behind it. It wasn't just the singers, it was the songwriters. Miranda Cooper and Brian Higgins. Industrial strength pop engineering, basically.
Absolutely. Cooper handling melodies, Higgins the beats and production. It's designed for maximum impact, minimum filler. That compilation is almost weaponized consistency.
Track after track designed to be a highlight. It must create this continuous sugar rush almost.
It does. And the tracks mentioned as sugar-coated pop perfection. I mean, the list is dense. The Show, Wake Me Up, No Good Advice, Sound of the Underground, something kind of, ooh, bang, bang, bang.
In a competitive listen, that's just hit after hit. Hard to argue with that kind of energy.
And it's not just relentless tempo either. They smartly included Life Got Cold, which is a strong ballad. It shows that engineering worked across different moods, preventing that fatigue you can get from just pure dance pop. Adds a bit of breadth.
But it wasn't perfect, right? This source did find flaws. The covers.
Yeah, the covers. That's often the weak spot in compilations or even regular albums. The analysis points to their versions of Jump, and I think we're alone now as probably the weakest links.
Okay, so 2 weak tracks. Normally, in round 2, wouldn't that be enough to sink an album?
You'd think so. But this is where the sheer density of the original hits saves them. The quality, and importantly, the frequency of those bangers was just so high, it kind of overwhelmed the 2 weaker moments.
So the listener gets maybe 8 or 9 killer tracks, and the 2 weaker ones are just a quick blip, a moment to breathe before the next hook hits you.
Pretty much, yeah. It absorbed the impact. Interestingly, the other cover they did, the Pretenders' Stand By You, was seen as a strong point. So they could do covers well when they really focused the sound engineering on it.
But overall, the assessment was clear. The album had something more, something good, something kind of... That pop perfection just powered it through.
And it was just enough power to edge out Marillion, who ended up third. A tough result for them, especially with Season's End.
Yeah, because Season's End carried so much weight, historically. 5th album, but the first after Fish left.
Yeah.
Big change.
Huge change. Steve Hogarth coming in, it meant a totally different vibe. Less theatrical, maybe more... atmospheric,
Yeah.
introspective.
And that introspection, that gentler sound, that's what hurt them competitively.
Seems like it. The source calls it a gentle album that sways in the breeze, which sounds lovely, but in a competition demanding attack.
Swaying isn't going to cut it against Foreigner's power or Girls Aloud's energy.
Exactly. It lacked that certain attack of their earlier Fish-era stuff. They were exploring new ground, like the long sax piece on Berlin, pushing their boundaries, but moving away from immediate rock impact.
And the internal debate about the album reflects that, right? Criticized for not going anywhere, but defended as relaxing.
Yeah, that classic prog dilemma. Is it deep and evolving or just a bit meandering? And relaxing is great for chilling out, but not great for winning a listening competition. The analyst even admits it grew on them over years.
Which is fatal in this Quest format. You don't have years, you have one back-to-back listen. Immediate impact is everything.
But it did have strong moments. Easter is highlighted, whispering, murmuring. But Steve Rothery's guitar work keeps you hooked. Fills the space dynamically. It creates atmosphere without just fading out.
And they did have some upbeat moments, hooks in you. the uninvited guest.
Yeah, those were the more, let's say, commercial-sounding tracks. As commercial as Marillion gets on that album, anyway. They provide necessary lifts, change the pace a bit.
But not enough in the end.
Not enough. The final verdict was pretty blunt.
Yeah.
A bit on the uneventful side to topple Girls Aloud, push them close, but the overall lack of consistent high energy or killer peaks meant it couldn't quite get into that top two.
Wow. So being relaxing can actually be a competitive weakness here. Fascinating.
Against relentless pop exhilaration, absolutely.
Okay, this brings us to the biggest shock, the one that makes you question everything. The Beatles. Magical Mystery Tour. Dead last. 4th place. An album by, the Beatles. That won its first round. Couldn't even beat Marillion's Gentle Sway. How on earth did that happen? This is the real mystery, right?
It is, but the explanation is surprisingly straightforward, and it comes down to structure. It's not about the quality of the best songs. It's about the album as a competitive unit.
The source called it a weird splicing.
Exactly. That's the key. It failed because of its format. Remember, the original UK release in '67 was just a 6-song double EP for the film.
Right, just the film music.
But the US needed an LP, a full album. So Capitol Records took that EP and just stuck 5 recent singles and B-sides onto the end.
Glued them on, as the source says.
Yeah, and that historical decision created a fundamentally unbalanced album for this kind of listening test. Because the analysis is clear, those 5 singles tacked onto the end, they are much stronger than the bulk of the EP.
So you have this quality gap right in the middle of the album experience.
Precisely. You start with the EP tracks. Some are brilliant, no question. The title track, Magical Mystery Tour, fantastic opener, catchy, captures that Set-A-Teat Pepper energy.
Yeah, great track.
The Fool on the Hill, beautiful, melancholic, the flute, classic McCartney. And I Am the Walrus. I mean, it's pure, bizarre genius, peak psychedelia, enduringly brilliant.
Okay, 3 killer tracks right there, world class.
Absolutely. But
Yeah.
then, the other EP tracks, this is where the quest gets brutal. The analysis says point blank that Flying and Blue Jay Way do bore me somewhat.
Ouch, bore me somewhat. In this competition, that's the kiss of death, isn't it?
It really is. Boredom means your attention drifts. It means the album loses momentum against competitors firing on all cylinders. Flying is basically an instrumental jam.
Kind of slight, maybe.
And Blue Jay Way is very atmospheric, very Harrison, but maybe doesn't progress much. It's droney.
So these 2 weaker tracks land right in the middle of the first half of the album.
And they create drag, a less gripping listening experience, as the source puts it. You hit this lull early on, and in a competition, that lull is fatal because the other albums just don't have it.
And that early drag just kills the momentum even before you get to the amazing singles at the end.
Completely. The power of those final 5 tracks, Strawberry Fields Forever, which is just sublime. Lennon's vocal style getting under your skin.
Penny Lane, All You Need Is Love, Hello, Goodbye Baby, You're a Rich Man. Giants.
Absolute giants. But they arrive too late. They can't undo the structural damage done by the weaker EP tracks earlier on. The album fails the consistency test. It fails the flow test.
So the Beatles lost not because the songs were bad, but because the album itself, as constructed historically, was flawed for this specific type of competitive listening.
Exactly. The filler, or perceived filler, wasn't just padding. It was a competitive anchor dragging the whole thing down. A really stark lesson about album structure.
Wow. Truly the end of the tour for them in this quest. Okay, from that spectacular failure, let's turn to the winner. The decisive champion of Group 6.
Foreigner. Agent Provocateur.
All right.
Number 1, advanced easily. Clear winner.
And this one is interesting, too, because it wasn't about complexity like Marillion or innovation like the Beatles. It was about nailing a specific formula, right?
Absolutely. It's a product of its time, mid-'80s AOR, but that formula proved incredibly effective here. Remember, commercially, this was huge for them, their only UK #1 album.
And it had their only #1 single, the monster ballad, I Want to Know What Love Is. Everyone knows that one.
You can't escape it. And that commercial engineering translated directly into competitive strength. The album structure is key, that toing and froing the source mentions.
Back and forth between the harder rock songs and the power ballads.
Yeah, it establishes this rhythm, this balance, its classic 80s AOR structure, and it just works for sustained listening. Keeps things interesting.
But the analysis is really clear. The ballads were the driving force behind the win.
Emphatically. It's the ballads that really make this album. That's the core finding.
So why? Why did these 80s power ballads have the edge over Beatles psychedelia or prog rock journeys or even relentless pop?
Emotional anchoring. Simple as that almost. In this intense back-to-back listening, those ballads deliver this immediate, powerful, universal emotional hit. They resonate deeply and provide these massive peaks of engagement.
It's not just I Want to Know What Love Is, though. The others were highlighted, too.
Right. There's A Love in Vain with its tragic yearning. There's Two Different Worlds tackling relationship struggles, which adds some relatable depth. Lou Gramm sells those emotions.
And the one argued as maybe the best track overall. That was Yesterday.
Yeah, that one's got it all. Soaring music, that sense of looking back, regret, nostalgia. It hits hard emotionally, but it's still got that big AOR sound. It's complex feeling delivered accessibly.
And then the big one, I Want to Know What Love Is. Gospel choir, huge chorus.
Yeah.
Its emotional weight is undeniable. But isn't that just rewarding sentimentality? Is a universal tearjerker competitively better than complex arrangements or groundbreaking sounds?
In this context, with flawed competitors, the results say yes. It's not just sentimentality, it's the effectiveness of that emotion as a competitive tool. These ballads are memorable, they're powerful, they stick with you immediately, they lift the entire listening experience and make you forgive maybe lesser moments elsewhere.
Okay, so the ballads are the anchors. But an album can't just be ballads. How do the rock tracks fit in? How do they achieve that balance?
Structurally, they did it well, kicking off with Tooth and Nail, that catchy, riff-heavy first track, sets the rock tone immediately, gives you energy up front, doesn't start slow.
Smart move. But the source also admits the other rockers weren't quite as strong, right? Reaction to Action, Prayer in My Own House. They lacked the finesse or weight of the ballads.
Correct. They weren't necessarily standout tracks on their own, but, and this is the clever part of the album's flow, they served a crucial structural purpose. They were the necessary grit between the pearls, if you like. Ah, okay. So even if they weren't A-grade rockers, they prevented the album from just being a string of ballads. They provided the contrast that made the ballads hit even harder.
Exactly. Without them, the album would feel too lopsided, just too much of one thing. So the rockers, even if not perfect, become essential scaffolding. They make the structure work, they provide the pace changes, and they make those ballad moments feel earned and impactful.
So Foreigner won by building an experience where their strongest weapons, the emotional power ballads, were perfectly positioned and supported by competent, necessary rock tracks. Smart arrangement.
Really smart arrangement for this kind of contest. It created that sustained, high-quality engagement. The analysts called it a clear winner, listenable all day long. That combination of emotional peaks and solid structure was just unbeatable in this group.
What a fascinating outcome. Let's recap then. Round 2, Group 6. The final ranking is number 1, Foreigner, Agent Provocateur.
Cruising through on the strength of those ballads and solid structure.
Number 2, the surprise package, Girls Aloud, the sound of the Girls Aloud. Powered by relentless, high-quality pop consistency.
Number 3, Bowing Out, Marillion with Season's End.
Consistent, atmospheric, but ultimately too gentle and uneventful for the win.
And in 4th place, the biggest shock, the Beatles' Magical Mystery Tour.
Undone by the structural flaws of its EP plus singles format, despite moments of genius.
So the takeaways from this specific album quest are pretty stark, aren't they?
Oh yeah. Consistency beats ambition. If the ambition has flaws, that's the Girls Aloud versus Marillion lesson. Sustained energy trumps gentle flow.
And album structure is absolutely critical. The Beatles proved that genius songs aren't enough if the package they come in is awkward or has moments that cause the listener to, well, get bored.
That boredom factor is lethal in the quest. A few minutes of drift can sink you.
But maybe the biggest lesson is from Foreigner. They won because of that focused emotional resonance. The ballads anchored everything.
The rock provided the framework, but the emotion carried the day. Absolutely.